So, as I said, in my area, it started a bit later, but we left home on I think on the 8th, that's when we left home, back and forth, sleep in the bushes and the forest, and then come back home. My mom tells us, put on as many layers of clothing as you can. But we all know that April, May, and June, I don't know if it's the same anymore, if the seasons are the same, that we have rain and here in April. Yeah. It's the same. Yeah. But so if you have put on a lot of layers of clothes, we used to call it mugondo. So you put more clothes, more shorts, more pants, as if that's gonna keep you warm and that's gonna keep you. That's actually not. I'm not gonna call my mom not wise, because she was a very wise woman. But I'm saying that the more clothes you put on, first you can't run first. Mm-hmm. Second, if it rains, you are more wet than somebody who has just one layer of clothing on. So, but I can also understand, because my mom didn't think we were going to be able to come back home, so we take as many stuff as we can. So we had been, hiding in bushes and so on. And then when it started in my village, it was one evening when now they decided, because the Nyanza Hutus were not taking an action, now the government had to come and push and tell them, you need to get to work. And to work means you need to start killing. So that's when they put roadblocks in every road and started attacking us. And my dad had gone to Nyanza with Claudette's dad to go. My dad, being a very good-looking and love, fashion and so on, decided he's going to go have a haircut so he doesn't die with looking awful. Mm-hmm. So he decided to go to Nyanza with his friend to go have a haircut so they could die looking good. And he went with his friend, and when they came back running, because the soldiers came after them, and they came running, wanting to tell their families to run for their lives. So my dad comes and he says they are coming in a big number, and some of you who have seen movies or were old enough to know, the word in Herahamwe is those who attack in unity or together. And they would come in a huge number. Even if they are coming to kill one person, they used to come in a big group, and they will come screaming and so on. So that's how they attacked us that evening, and we had to run and go hide in bushes. Anyways, cutting the long story short, we ran for weeks and weeks, and then we were also hidden by a man who's still alive to this day. His name is Simon. I just saw him last month as well. Wow. And Simon hid us. I just asked him a question a few weeks ago. I said, remind me, why were you not afraid of hiding Tutsis under your bed? He hid the 12 of us under his very small bed. Very poor man. And he hid us because his wife had left him during that time, and she wasn't going to tell. So he hid us under the bed for a week and more. And then it was announced, now we're getting into May. Then it was the first week of, I think last week of April or first week of May.
Simon is the one that stays outside cooking something and...
Yes, he cooks actually inside the house, puts smoke in the small house. The house is locked and windows are locked, but you are not allowed to sneeze. Have you ever been under a small bed? There's smoke in the house and you cannot sneeze. I don't know how that's done, but it was possible. And we stayed under that bed for more than a week. And I remember coming out of that bed, out of the hiding, and I couldn't actually see. And I said to him, I'm blind. I'm blind, because we'd been there for a while. He would only put us outside in the middle of the night so we can go to the toilet. But he did us very well. And then we are told, he comes home with the news that it had been announced that the killing stopped, we can go home. And so we were lied to. And so we went home, but not really my home. Not even grandfather's home was partially demolished. My home was demolished. So we decided to go to grandfather because he'd said to us that my grandfather was still alive. So we went there, and a lot of people started returning to their broken homes and villages. And then We were there for a week. So if I cut a very long story short, and then they came and picked, on a Wednesday, we were there for 3 days first, and then they came and picked all of us and took us to a roadblock. Mm-hmm. That roadblock that day also, we survived that roadblock, they let us go, but that's because they had already planned the day they were gonna kill us, which was the 7th of May. Mm-hmm. So that 7th of May, which is a day that changed my entire life, that was the day that we were attacked very early in the morning, about around 3 o'clock, I think. But we'd already been warned the night before. We'd been warned that that they were going to come and kill us. But my grandfather said, we stick together, we pray, and we die. When no one goes anywhere. So we stayed, knowing, even, I'm not going to say as a child, but as a person, knowing that you're going to die in a few hours from now and you can't escape. It's an awful feeling. And so we stayed there, and then early morning we were attacked. We started hearing the neighbor's house, the little kids screaming. They were screaming, saying, please forgive me, I'll never be a Tutsi again. And then the next town was ours. And the man that you asked about, his name was Gakuba. That's a real name. So some of the people, I didn't change names because of a reason. If their families did say that you can use the name, but for perpetrators, I didn't change the names because if they're under justice or they're under search, then I shouldn't be changing their names. Yeah. But on that day, this man, whom we have all known as a man who's a godly man, is the one leading the group. But we had already known that he'd been he'd killed a lot of people already. And so, and these are my boys coming, not to embarrass them, but but then we get to see him. We already knew he wasn't gonna, forgive or anything. We already knew he had killed a lot of people. But the young man who came first was a young man that my grandfather, my dad had sponsored and paid school fees for. And so this young man, even though he just killed the neighbors, but for some reasons, he's feeling maybe he wants to help and save us, or shame, or I don't know what exactly it was. But anyways, then Gakuba comes in and he says, no, get them out. I can see them, get them out. And in fact, you're going to have to kill 10 of them for you to be forgiven. Because as you know, the Hutus wanting to help a Tutsi, then they will be killed as well. And so he led us to the ditch where we're supposed to be killed from. And we were taken to that ditch, which was actually behind the house where my dad was hiding on the roof. But they didn't know my dad was there. So my dad could hear the whole conversation. He was still alive. He was hiding on the roof. So they took us to that ditch, and they asked us to pick, each one of us to pick what was going to kill us. That's when I picked a club with a guy called John.
And your mom says...
My mom refused.
Dying.
Yeah, my mom was a strong woman, and she decided she was going to keep her dignity to the end. And she said, in fact, when they pulled her over wanting to rape her, she said, you're not touching me before my children. You can have my children. My children are not going to see it. And she decided she would put us, line us up, so we don't have to see that. I always have to say that, she wasn't raped at the end of the day because this guy was just ashamed and pushed her and ended up not touching her. But my mom said, I'm not choosing anything. I chose a club because I was so scared of a machete. So I chose this young man, John, with a club because I knew with a club they will hit you at the back of your head 2 or 3 times and you'll be gone. And the way they used to tell you was to lay down on your stomach. And then that's when they jumped in that ditch and started killing. And I was hit at the back of my head and I lost consciousness. And that's how I was buried alive. So really, I'm not sure how long I was unconscious for. I don't know if he hit more than once, but the one I felt was the first one. I didn't feel second or third or what. The next thing I felt was when they were burying us and everybody had died.